Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Rise Urban Nation. And I got a special guest here today. This young lady is full of energy, and let me tell you, when the spirit God say something through her, that it happens. She said something earlier about technology, and technology just shut down.
Oh my God.
Latoya McKelvin is in the building, ladies and gentlemen. Latoya, welcome to Rise Urban Nation. How are you doing this morning?
I am doing beautiful. Thanks for having me on Rise Urban Nation. I'm very excited to be here to speak with you, my dear friend, with such good energy.
Now, for the folks who may not know Latoya, I like to ask this question, and every guest has a different answer. You could take this as far and wide as you want to go, or wherever your spirit guides you to take it. Who is Latoya?
Oh, who is Latoya? It's actually a question that I've been asking myself quite a bit lately. Um, Latoya is a student. I'm a forever student. I'm a forever learner of life, of skills, of development, self-development, external development, community development. So I would say Latoya is definitely a student, a person with a passion for learning.
I love that. Lifelong learner, long learner. I'm a lifelong learner too, so I'm always learning, and then I think each person I interact with helps me to learn something new about the world, about myself, about that individual. So thank you
Yeah.
for being a lifelong learner with me.
Hey, kindred spirits here.
So, being that you're a lifelong learner, what have you learned about yourself in the past year?
Woo, woo. I have learned that evolution doesn't have to be slow. Like when you think of Darwinism or you think of getting to the next step, we think that it's slow, and certain things just it just takes time. But Latoya in January of 2022 is very, very, very different of the Latoya that's in January 2023. And it's shocking. It's a stark difference. I think that in 2022, part of that process, or that big jump in evolution, is because I dove full into my business. Probably, I dove full into my business, and so I had to evolve in order to be impactful to my community, to be impactful to myself and my future goals, and to be impactful to my family. So, and the my business, Movement Matters Collective, was that pathway that allowed me to do so. In order for me to make all that happen, I had to change. Like, I had to start utilizing my calendar like it was nobody's business. I had to start giving myself some time to be a little bit introspective, and I had to become very, very reliable for others and for myself.
Yeah, I like that. So now that you mentioned a little bit, tell little people about what your business is that you just transitioned to, and where did you transition from?
Okay, cool. So Movement Matters Collective is a health and wellness organization that specializes in mindful movement, specifically Pilates, yoga, dance, and breath work. One of our biggest missions is just to eliminate as many barriers of entry into this wellness world, right? There are multiple barriers of entry. It could be finances, it could be confidence, it could be convenience, it could just, being uncomfortable in a space. And so we just want to remove all of that and create an inviting place on multiple levels for people to come in and just kind of reconnect with themselves. And it's interesting because I've always, just like I'm a lifelong learner. If you had asked me a year ago, I would say I'm a lifelong mover, which I am. I have danced most of my life. My degree is in dance. I danced professionally for a while, taught dance, and then I transitioned into teaching Pilates. I wanted to get into
Mm-hmm.
Pilates because I knew I was going to be teaching young dancers coming up. And I was like, I don't want to break any babies. I don't want to break any baby bodies. So let's just make sure I have, like, I had a, what do you call it? Like a very intuitive knowledge of movement in the body, but I wanted to make sure that I had a very tangible knowledge in that sense. So kinesiology, proper
Mm-hmm.
biomechanics, and things like that. So, instead, in lieu of going to get a full-on second degree, I was like, let's go ahead and check and do a Pilates teacher training. Pilates had always been a part of my cross training as a dancer, and I knew how it had benefited me as a mover, and I knew that it would benefit me as an instructor. So I went, fell in love with teaching Pilates. Just felt like it literally changes
Mm-hmm.
people's quality of life, right?
Yeah.
And so that journey took me on actually being on the operation end of a major Pilates educational institution called Bassi Pilates. So I was on their marketing team and I was in their admin office, just kind of helping to keep that engine running, which was amazing insight. Not all movers or instructors get that back end perspective, and so that was really great. And I also dabbled in marketing with some other health and wellness brands, particularly in the CPG category. So I was coming from there before I transitioned into solely working for myself and bringing my baby to life.
You know what I love? I love that you went and you worked in businesses and organizations and operations that allowed you to like get, firsthand training of what it looks like, and then you took that to implement in what you wanted to create and what you didn't see out there. So I love that you did that. A lot of people, I feel, don't get that firsthand knowledge when
Mm-hmm.
they go in and they start a business, but they haven't had the opportunity to learn like you did from other organizations, so they can take the best practices, procedures, and just things that that they can use in their business. They kind of fumble through. They learn it, then they maybe get a coach or something, but you that is like gold right
It
there.
is.
That's
It
a gold
is.
strategy.
And just to build on that just a little bit, like the pathway of entrepreneurship wasn't necessarily on my radar. So when I was with these businesses, I was head on, giving my all, absorbing as much information, just trying to get better at my job and help these organizations. And I just say that to we don't know what the future may hold, and that's okay. But if we are present and if we're present in what we're doing, we're trying to put our best foot forward. I'm in yoga, it's called like karmic action, right? So you are just trying to work without necessarily saying I have to get to a certain place, but I'm going, if you're going to do something well, right? That to me was what I was doing, and it served me well because at the as I transitioned, I had skill set. So I had a skill set that was going to be beneficial to me on another pathway of life. So, like, we don't know what we're going to do, but what we're doing in this moment, let's go ahead and let's do it well and go towards your curiosity. Whatever you're curious about, I invite people to go towards that 100%.
Yeah, I always lead with curiosity, and it'll take you on an education lesson that will surprise you in most cases. Um, I'm over here thinking about what you said in your previous statement. Just the barriers to movement, to people getting out there, and how you approach me, and you made it so easy. Although I missed my first appointment, I'm going to reschedule. Uh, you know, uh, that like movement and in the way that you all do it, that's a weakness for me, and you just help remove barriers to make it easier for me to kind of participate, be involved, and come in, engage with community, because you got community behind it as well. um uh, and this question that I'm gonna ask you, it doesn't have to be necessarily to Pilates or the work that you do. It's more like in general. I want to get your thought and mindset around, if somebody has a weakness or a perceived weakness, what next steps could someone take to grow in their weakness?
Absolutely. That's a great question. I will tell you one thing that has shaped my perspective around that question. Like, how do you grow in your weakness? My ballet teacher growing up was like, she always said, like, make your weakness your strength. She was specifically talking about ballet. So if you're not a good turner, you're going to turn, you're going to practice turning until that's your best quality, right? Because all of the other stuff is already on par, right? So we want to take that thing that is not on par, practice it, make that our best. And so like you're starting from here and you're going up. So that has always that stuck out with me. Deborah Boughton from Syracuse, New York, loved her. But my approach too with helping folks, whether it's through movement or just talking to friends and family members, is starting with our internal dialogue. So we have an internal dialogue, and sometimes that internal dialogue, and these are words that we may not even say out loud, but it's like in our brain, or it's sometimes like literally in our heart. It's like, oh, we can't do this. This is too hard, or whatever the case may be. I try to use language and help people just, say, just because something is hard doesn't mean it's impossible. And it's okay for things to be hard. It's really okay for things to be hard. What's the first step that you can take to something that is challenging or hard? Hi, Brian. So yeah, so I definitely try to start with that internal monologue. And even if it's a micro step towards something that you didn't want to do, that you had a blocker for, encouraging yourself and giving yourself kudos for even taking that micro step, right? Positive reinforcement goes a long way, a super long way, especially when there's so much negative reinforcement, specifically with that internal monologue saying you can't. Oh, you stumbled. See, that's why you shouldn't have done it, right? Like, celebrate the falls, celebrate the steps forward, and nothing is impossible. And that's just starting with our language that we're talking to ourselves, and then that begins to manifest.
Yeah, I'm gonna say words are so powerful, and we have to be careful of the words that we speak, because those words that we speak can manifest
Mm-hmm.
what we really say, from our thoughts to um our actions. I was watching a video on Instagram not too long ago, and then I did a little bit more research on this uh project that they did, or I want to say science project or study that they did. They put water, and they put positive words in one side,
Yeah.
and then they put negative words in another side, and then they froze it. And then after you freeze the water, the positive words froze differently from the negative words.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just so interesting to see how they froze. And then this guy broke it down. He was like, you know, water contains memory, or some type of I, I I can't explain it as well he did, but and since water can retain that, and we are, as human creatures, 60 to 70% water, we have to be mindful of what we intake into us as words, consciously, subconsciously, what
Mm-hmm.
we say, because that can manifest whatever it is that we are putting out there in the universe.
Yeah, absolutely. Two things on that. One, I saw this in action with my aunt. My aunt was the plant woman. She had a bunch of plants, right? All of her
Hmm.
plants had names. All of her plants she sung to, she gave words of encouragement to, and everyone was like, Pee Wee, how do your plants thrive? Da 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 da. And it's, she attributed a lot of that. Like, she treated her plants like they were children. Like, she nurtured them, not just with making sure they had enough sunlight and water, but in the love that she spoke to them. And I think that, so I literally feel like I had like a bird's eye view into seeing how words matter. And this is a personal thing too, is like, we talk about manifestation. One of the sayings is like, it's about being a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So like whatever we put out there, it's like we are creating that map for us to reach, whether that's good or bad. And so like if I'm going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy, I want it to be in the best light possible or on the best path possible for me. And so yeah, those are my two additions to that. But I love it. You're so right. And I know exactly what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah. So like self-fulfilling prophecies. Because I'm a big believer in of manifestation. Like you can manifest something
Hmm.
if you really put the thought, energy, and focus into it. It can manifest. So I'm that you know I know everybody don't believe that, but I'm a big believer into
Hmm. Hmm.
that.
100%.
uh, Now I know you're in the process of building this wonderful, beautiful studio, and we talked a little bit about manifesting and overcoming weaknesses. So, I'm gonna challenge you with this question here: is you know, when you look at everything you're heading to and you're accomplishing, I'm not sure where you're at in your process. What's keeping you from taking the next steps in what you want to do now? Because you've already made the shift from full-time entrepreneur and you're now setting it up. So, and that's a question only you can answer because I don't know what the next step is for you. So, what's keeping you from taking the next step in what you want to do now?
That's a great question. Give me a moment. um, So let's put a little context around where I am in the process, right? So when I started
Uh,
Movement Matters Collective, the idea was to first it came out of a necessity for me, just kind
mm,
of my family I lost one aunt at the time. I had another aunt that had just been diagnosed with the same aggressive cancer that we had just buried my other aunt with.
oh no.
And then come to find out during that same time period, I had another aunt get diagnosed with cancer, but she didn't tell anyone because she's like, the family's already going through too much. So, and I'm 3,000 miles away from my family. So, like, Movement Matters wasn't like it was born out of fulfilling a need and to connect with my family and to, I'm like, people pay me money to help them with their mental health, to help them with their physical health. I need to do this for my family as well, like no questions asked. So that's kind of how it started, with the intention of it just being online and potentially mobile, so going to like Pilates in the park. And then, okay, my partner's like, okay, think bigger. So like after we got this solidified, that what's the next step? I'm like, okay, let's go into the metaverse. Let's be one of the first Pilates studios in the metaverse. So that's the context I need to put around, because even having a brick and mortar wasn't necessarily on the pathway. Now I have this brick and mortar. It honestly felt like it was given to me. I am paying, but like just the ease in the process. Like I have a lot of friends who are entrepreneurs, and finding that good location, finding, working with a landlord that's, not just 100% about like money, money, money. So like when it comes to that process, I'm not going to say it was easy, but it was tailored to what I needed at that moment. And I didn't know that I needed it. Right. And so that's where I am right now. And so that process was beautiful. It was really helpful because it actually, it made me think like anything is possible, right? Anything, like so many people within my family, outside of my family, in my community, like literally within like the square footage, the square blocks of my community, and then like San Diego at large. And then if you can even look wider, we see a lot of things happening that show that there is something lacking in the way that we are addressing uh, overall well-being in America in particular. So the thing that's really there are two things that are kind of holding me back. I'm gonna be very, very honest. One is like, there's so much to do. It's like, where do I start? Right. And then the second part of that is also fear, right? Like, one of the reasons why I stepped away from my performance career is because like I didn't necessarily want to be the person in the center of the stage saying, look how many flattes I can do. And that's what the dance world is about. So and so now, like, where I am, there is fear that I will succeed, and fear that I have to actually be the one leading, right? And so I am just trying to work on my internal monologue or surrounding that and saying, what steps are you taking forward? How can we, what assets, what skill sets do you need to kind of counteract that fear that's inside of you? And even the idea that there's so much that can be done, like, what's the first thing that you can do? Like, what's the first thing you can do? And so answering these questions, I think, are helping me get on the path of getting to the next level. But those are real barriers right now.
Yeah, that was beautifully said. And I think a lot of us who approach something new or go into something different and make transitions, we it's a normal feeling. We all have that fear, and it looks surmountable. It looks like a really big thing that we have to tackle, and we're trying to tackle it all at once and trying to grab all information. Sometimes there's information overload, and not that I want to eat an elephant, but that's the old saying, how do you eat an elephant?
How do you, one bite
One
at a
bite at a time. Yeah. Because I can't think of another better analogy at the time. But like anytime you tackle something, you just have to do it, step by step, project
Mm-hmm.
by project. You didn't learn to walk in one day. You didn't learn to run in one day. You didn't learn to ride it. Well, some people I know got lucky and learned how to ride a bicycle in one day. But
I
some
fell
people
off a
took
lot.
a couple. Yeah, I fell off a lot too. But I had another friend of mine who got on it and learned that same day, and I was like,
Oh,
"What?" So now I was comparing myself to him, and I'm like, "What's wrong with me? How come I can't get it? And he got it in one day."
right.
And that's the other piece of it. We start to compare ourselves to people
Woo!
who, and he's like, "You got to run your own race. The race was meant for you, not for somebody else. Your vision was meant for you. So don't compare your thing with somebody else's thing. Do your thing. It's your thing. Hey, do
What
what
you
you want to
want to do?
do."
Ow!
So
Okay, sorry. Don't get me going.
movement matters.
Amen.
We can't have a podcast without movement because movement matters.
Hey, 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 hey.
So I appreciate that you grounded us in that and being so vulnerable and transparent in that. Because I think it's important. It's an important conversation to remind ourselves and encourage ourselves. And there will be mistakes along the way, and it's
Mm-hmm.
okay. Um, so with that, what mistakes have you made that
Cool,
you have learned from?
cool. I gotta think about that. I think there's two. The first one being, honestly, I waited too long. I waited too long. Like, um, and not that it was a mistake. Everything happens when it's supposed to happen. I do feel like I'm at an emotional, mental place where I can make all this happen. Um, but I think that the space that I'm filling absolutely needed to be filled like a long time ago, and I had the skill set. So there is a little regret behind not starting, and so like I'm working through that regret and telling really trying to embody and come to terms with, like, I wasn't ready to start it, but boy, oh boy, a Black woman in this space leading something is so, so, so important. I mean, I can't San Diego in particular is one of the Pilates Mecca and yoga Meccas of the world. Like, we have more yoga instructors per capita than anywhere else. Pilates was the number one Google thing in 2022 in San Diego, like Pilates near me. But there aren't very many folks who look like me who are in leadership positions. I will say this, I gotta just give it a shout out. My mentor, the one who helped bring me into this world, happens to be a Black woman. She happens to be the president of the PMA. Let's go ahead, Stella. So like that is also something that has been a blessing on my journey, where I was able to see myself. And then I went to Ghana and I taught for 6 months, and my friend is the one who opened up that Pilates studio in Ghana, and so like it's a Black woman owned studio in Ghana teaching Black bodies, and I was like I took me going there to say, oh, I can do that here. But like having that foresight to have done it, I was like, oh, I should definitely. So the shoulda, wouldas, and couldas really are kind of challenging in that. And the second like mistake or challenge that I put myself in that I didn't necessarily need to is like probably the first 6 months, 6 to 9 months, I just thought I had to do it all by myself. I literally thought I had to do it all by myself, everything, like not even asking people who have been in this industry or in the business industry, just questions, right? And so instead of starting here, like I was having myself start back here, like, kind of being my own Achilles heel. And, I have been blessed to have had some amazing folks put in my life where they're only a phone call away, and I didn't pick up the phone until like a lot longer. So those were two things that if I could go back and talk to myself, just start. Even if it's teaching a class outside in the park, go ahead and do it. And like just call, my other mentor is Julie. She is like a marketing guru. She is really beautiful in how she can, simplify really large concepts and just kind of pick her brain about things. I wish I had done that earlier. Or I could tell myself I could. And she's like, why aren't you? Those are my two, like, I don't know, mistakes. It's hard for me to say things are mistakes. I try not to look at things like that, but
Okay.
definitely,
So I mean, we'll look at them as opportunities,
yeah,
because initially mistakes or regrets or challenges can be opportunities if we treat it as so.
yeah,
They could be learning lessons, they could be all of that. So we could just rechange that word to what's some opportunities that
yeah.
missed opportunities, foreseen opportunities, and I think you summed it up very, very, very well. So I
Thank you.
love the way you put it out to the people. You hear that, everybody? Just start. Just start. You
Start.
start where you're at. That's all you gotta do is just start.
Yes.
And then, it's a beautiful thing when you start and you are mindful of your thoughts, your words, your intentions. When you start, the universe will provide. You'll start to see things show up in ways that you don't even realize.
That was my mantra for 2022 is like the universe will provide and has done so abundantly, right? But
Mhm.
it was the just start, do your do your work and start, and the universe provides. I was actually
Mhm.
just in a meeting last week, and the gentleman leading the meeting said that like, you know, luck is luck is meeting opportunity well prepared, right? That's what luck is.
Mhm.
And I was like, that's
Mhm.
it right there. So and my mom has this lovely saying like, don't perpetrate, right? Don't put on the airs like you
Ah.
are doing so, like do it, do it, do it, do it.
All right, moms, we love it. We love it. See, that's why we got moms. We love moms, right?
So,
Yeah.
and because sometimes, it can look like, if you go on my social media, you look, oh, Latoya has a studio, da, 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 da. But like work has gone into it. It's just not me saying I'm here,
Mhm.
right? Like work has gone into it, like whether it's the Pilates sessions, like me taking it on, talking to folks, like just do the work one step at a time and start, and then the universe provides. That's it. It's that
Man, you made me
simple.
think of my it made me think of my entrepreneurship journey through this podcast. And for a long time people told me, hey, you should start a podcast, but I didn't want to just speak to people just to speak at people.
Yeah.
But then the idea, oh, why don't I interview people that look like me, that this is just doing really cool, dope stuff, right? And I didn't know how to start, how to do it, but when I started, things started to show up. And this is in the middle of a pandemic. And then just a year later, next thing I know, by the end of that year, we had like relationships with 3 PR agencies, and they started sending us guests and started
Wow.
sending us high profile guests too, like people that's like one of the presidents of Fox Soul, one of the VPs of Facebook.
Oh
I
my.
was like, woo, okay, all right,
Woo-woo.
all right. The universe is providing. Okay, all right, let's go.
Because you took this first step. You started. You did.
Yeah.
Right.
So just start, ladies and gentlemen, and just start and be prepared. On the flip side of that, there's always people, that sometimes they're the naysayers, and sometimes they may, oh, you can't do that. Who you think you are? Like, that's you should just stick to da da da, right? And sometimes it may come from a good place. Like sometimes some of our family, they may, and they say it because they weren't able to be successful at it, or they haven't seen somebody be successful at it, so they're trying to protect us. So sometimes it may come from a good place. It may not be all negative, and I tell people sometimes, those thoughts creep in because, these are the people that love you and is close to you. How do you overcome thoughts of people who are against you?
Okay. So here's one, I have a horrible memory. And two, I think that I I don't know if this is a good flaw. I don't know what, but like I only see the positive. Like so I don't even know if there's any naysayers. And not everyone I don't know if it's the Pisces in me or whatever, but like honestly, like glass half full and not sometimes people can be blind to things. And I don't think I'm blind to stuff, but honestly, I don't think I have met anyone that says you can't do this or don't do this. Like what they say behind closed doors may be another thing, but no one has said that, to me. I've had folks say, "Are you making enough money? Are you going to be able to make enough money?" That things like that, and those are great questions that help me to kind of strategize to see what I have to do. But I like I'm not saying that everything has been perfect whatsoever. It's just that like I have always been like see the world through rosy glasses. Like, my mama is a hippie. She did did the same. It's just how I was raised. And not only that, even if someone has broached me with a question or maybe with some like, I don't think you should do that. I think, building on what you said, I see the intent of their heart. Their intent of their heart is that they want the best for me. Even if they don't think that the path that I'm on is the best, they're coming to me saying, hey, I want the best in you. So have you thought about this or da 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 da? And I think, really trying to discern folks' intentions have been helpful for me because the folks in my life they have my best intention. They want what's best for me, and so I can see and know that even if I won't or don't 100% agree with what they're saying. I think that is one way of doing it, and also listen to folks. Even if it is negative, is there something that you can get out of it that you can strategize and build on, right? So we know that entrepreneurship is hard. And so someone may say, don't quit your day job yet. Like what, like let's break that down. What do they mean by don't quit your day job yet? That it may not necessarily be saying you're bad at something, but like you need to make sure your bills are paid. So like like how can you create a schedule or create a plan where while you're building something you can still make sure that you have your bills paid. And, you know, that's why the saying is like, you know, your 9 to 5 pays for your 5 to 9 or whatever it's called, you know, saying like you're
Yeah.
investing in your own dreams and that. So that would be my suggestion, is just like you can flip things around. You can find the intention behind what that person is saying, but that's also really being discerning about who you have around you, which is why community is so important. Like, and community can be looked at on multiple levels. But my partner gave me some advice, and like I took it and ran with it. He told me like be around other entrepreneurs. And that was some of the best advice, because one, they're not going to tell me, no, you can't do that. I mean, it's going to be like, how do we figure it out? And that whole thought process is just a little different. But even if you aren't around other entrepreneurs, like your family or your friends, like they do have your best intentions. So like listen and strategize and go back to your business plan and say, okay, I'm going to have to work this 9 to 5 for the first 6 months until, like, you know, I have X amount of revenue coming in. It can get like that. But yeah.
Yeah. All right. I love it. I love it. Love it. So the answer here is, ladies and gentlemen, become a hippie. No, just kidding.
Yes. Put your rosy colored glasses on.
As I got my rosy colored glasses on.
And also on that note, I was a black ballerina. Like everyone told me I couldn't, like, you know, in the ballet world, I didn't see anyone who looked like me. So like, you know, my grandma definitely was like, hey, like, are you sure this? But not saying don't be a ballerina, but like I was in a world that
Right.
did not want me. And I still like I
Right.
did what I had to do there, and it was beautiful. So we all have our challenges. So
Right. Love that. Love that. I'm over here thinking about because as we look at the rosy colored future, and thinking about my future of entering to the movement matters as I drink my coconut
hey,
water
hey,
and try to
hey.
make small steps towards health and wellness. And I know you guys are when I see you, you know, I don't know all your habits, but I see you guys as like great leaders and people I strive to hang more around and be like when it comes to health and wellness, and creating better healthy habits and disciplines. Um, you know, one question that comes to mind is, you know, what should someone read to create better habits or disciplines, or what have you been what's been useful in you in learning how to create, you know, better habits or disciplines?
Okay. Honestly, creating better habits has been challenging for me from the get-go. But I read a book called Yamas and Yamas by Adele Carroll. Her first name is Adele for sure.
Right.
But Yamas and Niyamas, these are two of the branches of yoga. They are self practices and self observances, and she lays it out in such a practical manner. And it's not saying, hey, do this, right? It's if you do this, these are some of the things that may start to happen in your life, or these are the results that are big, or outcome that's a big potential if you do XYZ. And I just think under helping me understand the why behind doing certain things is super, super helpful. And she
Hmm.
does it in such like a practical manner. It's called Yamas and Niyamas. I can't remember her last name, but her first name is Adele, Adele. And
Hmm.
that book really helped the changes. So once my brain understood the why, like everything else was like this,
Mm.
it felt like the DNA in my cells changed. And so like making sure I drink water, or you know, certain things that help my relationship with myself and help my relationship with others just all came, and it just all came into to it solidified in my being. So I'm going to say that's a great read if you are thinking about changing habits. And yes, it's in like the yoga lexicon, but it is it Carol Adele? What is
It's the Yamas in
Niyamas.
Niyamas Exploring the Yoga's Ethic
Uh-huh.
by Deborah Adele.
Deborah Adele. There it is. It's really, I
Yeah.
read it twice, y'all. It's all good.
Yeah. So
But
the Yamas in Niyamas Exploring Yoga's Ethical Practice, Deborah Adele, ladies and gentlemen. So if you want a good read to help you set, better habits and intentions, check this book out.
please
I'm about to put it on my book list.
do it. And again, it helps to explain the why. Like sometimes, and this is my approach to movement is like, we don't want to do these things to beat ourselves up or to like force ourselves into submission. We are doing this as acts of kindness for ourselves. And if we are kinder to ourselves, we're able to be kinder to other people. And this world can use a lot more kindness. And so this book
Yeah.
really, really helped to kind of solidify that philosophy in me, and that we're doing these things to be kind to ourselves and to be kind to others. So,
Amen to that.
even eating healthy and even the foods that whatever healthy means, but even the foods that we choose to be put in our body, how is that food treated? Like from the lettuce that you're chopping up to like, if we have animal-based protein in our lives, like, did that animal get a chance to live just a little bit and feel the sun on their face? Because guess what? The vitamin D that animal received is going to go into you and help to provide nutrition and benefits to your body. So you want those, we want all aspects of what we put into our body to be very, very intentional for a reason, not just because, someone says so or it's going to help us lose weight, but there is an absolute reason, both emotionally and physically, that you want to be intentional about the things that you put in your body and how the things that we put out of our bodies, like our words, what we talked about
Mm-hmm.
before. So, and
Yeah, love
yeah,
that.
it's a great book.
Okay. I'm gonna put it on my collection. So one question I always ask people on here is, one thing when I used to go teach students and talk in public schools, and I still do from time to time. I would some of them graduating high school or the graduates from college, they will always have this mindset around like, okay, now I got this degree, now I'm gonna get this 6-figure job, and that's gonna be the first thing that's gonna happen for me outside when I get into the real world. Or our high school too, they like, the first thing I'm gonna do is get this good job with the intentions of this thing that I want to do or skill set. But we know it doesn't always work that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this reset in mindset, and then I help them get back on that horse sometimes and give them the reality of the situation, and have them let them know that some of the people that you look up to and admire, they had humble beginnings. They started out Mickey D's and as their first job and all these other places. And so with that being said, what was your first job, Latoya?
All right. So my first job was actually working in my aunt's bookstore. So my aunt Carol had a bookstore called Southside Newsstand, and it sold used books, newspapers from all over the world, and periodicals. It also had a coffee shop. And yeah, and right next to it
Nice.
was the headquarters, the Onondaga headquarters for the Green Party. So
Wow.
it was a really hotbed for politics. If you're running for any type of office in Syracuse, you had to stop
Uh-huh.
by there and chit chat. But so I did everything from like sweeping floors, making coffee, and drinks. I'm not saying I'm a barista. I literally just put some drip
Ah.
coffee, just that. Did the cash organized periodicals. And coupled with that, she had a nonprofit called Refrigerator Door Club that specialized in just bringing youth with seniors together. And the idea is like, the name came from like when your kid bring home an A or a good art project, you put on a refrigerator door. And so
Aw.
I was a tutor there. That was not a job. That was volunteer work because she was not paying me for that. But
Ah.
yeah, it was great. I actually, so like even before that, my grandmother owned a restaurant called Bear's Place. And that was around in my family for about 12 years. And I was a quote unquote waitress, not really, but like I go there and like pretend like I was taking people's order. um, but my first job, probably outside of one of my family businesses, was I I was an intern for the what do you call it? The Republican headquarters for Syracuse. In Syracuse, everything is just kind of intertwined. So we had the green headquarters of my family. Like my one of my aunt's best friends was on the board of the Onondaga Republican office. So I did that. That was my first job outside of my family businesses. Learned a lot about politics, and this is during a time where things are a little bit more civil between the different parties. So sometimes it's like, oh, do I even tell people that? But I did, and I did that for about
it's a part of your history.
It is.
I mean, things are not civil, and I think that's just because mostly we've lost touch with each other's humanity during this whole process, and if we can get back in touch with humanity and recognize humanity in people, like that could solve a lot of that rhetoric.
Absolutely. I will say between like my being at my aunt's store and being at the headquarters, I learned a lot about politics. I learned that it's not anything that I can do because I'm too like, oh, what's the best thing we can do? And that's not always that's not necessarily always the thing.
They're like, take your hippie butt over there and sit down somewhere.
Exactly.
Take your rose-colored glasses off, glass half full hippie butt over there.
Thank you. But on that note, though, so like we are all creating, especially you're talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, and we can talk about what the business does for us, but the idea of what our business can do for our community and for our family. So like my aunt was able to give me my first job, right? I think that's pretty impactful. I want to be able, like, I'm already trying to collaborate with my niece and nephew on how we gonna get Movement Matters. My niece has a line called Charismatic Essentials. My nephew is working on some major things too, so I'm like super excited. I'm like, okay, I got another nephew who's a dancer. I'm like, how we all gonna collaborate? Like, let's
so now that I know we got all these entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs, I better be seeing them come on this show one of these days.
Let's talk about it. And they're all doing such amazing things. But just on that journey of entrepreneurship, and I think specifically in the Black community, we understood that it wasn't just about us, right? So it's the impact that you're having on your community and the impact that you're having on your family. I think that's really important. And it may not, I don't even think it was the first thing that was on my mind when I decided. Actually, it was because, it was to serve a specific need for my family at the time. But, as we expand and grow, it's like, and I think and reflect on my life, like, oh, my aunt literally gave me my first job. Like, I might be able to give my niece shelf space at my brick and mortar. Like that's, these are amazing things. And you can see it around that. Like our first network is our family. That's our first network. And so we want to be able to bring as much value to them as possible.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. Okay. So I'm now thinking of that journey, and I realized that your family is just full of entrepreneurship, so you was just destined to be an entrepreneur.
But again, I did not think that I was going to go down that road. I remember having
your kindred spirit is so strong that even when you go off path, it's letting you know
you
that
right back. You coming right back.
Let me help you out. Let me help you out.
Yes. Yeah. No.
Going back to our technology, we don't like technology.
Exactly. So like I remember having that conversation with my mom saying, hey, just so you know, I'm gonna be a starving artist. I've chosen the pathway of being in the performing arts. It is what it is. And I don't have to have $1 million. I don't have to have anything. I just need to do my art. I was such, like, again, a hippie, drama queen, whatever you want to call it.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so multiple generations. So my mother's father, my maternal grandfather, he had the first Black-owned radio station in Syracuse, New York, record shop. So he was a serial entrepreneur. And then, and at the same time, or later on, my grandma opened up her restaurant. And I just learned that was like a huge, like, even my dad had a hand in it. And I was like, yo, we had a real family business. Everyone was putting in. And my, all, like, one of my aunts had a childcare business. Another one of my, we come from a lot of entrepreneurs, and I think it's just the hustle in us, right? And it served me well even when I wasn't on the entrepreneur journey. Like, being a dancer, you gotta hustle, you gotta, like, be prepared to just, like, get a little gritty. And it, coming from the family that I came from, definitely helped with that, for sure.
Like, it's funny that you said the term starving artist, because somebody said that to me the other day, and I've been sitting with it for the last 3 days or so. And I feel that we as a society, and especially even artists, have romanced in the idea of starving artist, and that term has been overly used and been embraced. And I want to, I don't, maybe it's not me that's going to change it, but I'm gonna put this out into the universe, and whoever hears it, I hope they help create it, and then hit me up, and I'll join the movement, or or synergize with you on it. But I want to switch the term starving artist to abundant artists, because abundance flows through all of artists, and our artists are abundant by every means of how they help to shape, change, and lift up societies, from the murals that go into communities to art being used to have difficult conversations, to explore topics that help elevate us as a society. When we have, these, whether it be movies, whether it be film, whether it be poetry, right?
Yeah.
So our artists are not starving; they're abundant.
They're abundant,
and we need to change the whole culture around that. And
can I just build on that a little bit? I feel like Gen Z is doing that, like, with this whole influx of content creators. Content creators are artists. These creatives that are out there, they are 100% artists. And I also think that they are helping to create a blueprint for folks who are taking a little bit more of the classical route into creating art, like fine arts, painting murals and things like that. Because even if you're painting a mural, that's content now. Like, you just time lapse that, you put that in, and you find ways of monetizing it. I don't think it's perfect yet, but I do think that I am personally witnessing a lot more folks from the get-go, out the gate, saying, how can I make money with my art form? And I appreciate even hearing that conversation change, but also seeing it manifest, and starting with our content creators and our creatives that we have going around. There's still a lot of work to do. So we definitely want all artists to live abundantly, because they are giving abundantly of their spirit and their soul and their artwork. So we want to make sure that they're taken care of, and it's such an important aspect of society. But I think, maybe this is me with my rosy colored glasses on, but I do see the progress of, like, before, like, if you wanted to be an artist, you had to, like, just know that you were going to move to New York City, sleep in a small closet apartment with 6 other people, get up at 6 a.m., go to your audition, like that. And that's just like, that was just the life, right? So I do think that that's changing a little bit.
Yeah, and now you don't you don't necessarily have to go that route anymore. You can media, NFTs, this new digital space has allowed for artists to live abundantly, share their craft, and gain their audience, and don't look to the big box offices anymore.
Yeah, cut out the middleman.
You cut out the middleman. Let them come to you, and you negotiate your worth.
Yes, 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 and yes
So,
again.
all right. What's because I know somebody's going to be inspired by your journey, and so I want you to share what steps did you kind of take to really leave your 9 to 5 and start your business. So like if somebody's thinking about this and it's like, I want to turn my art, my passion into an actual business. I wonder what steps she took, or even if it's in doing the yoga or anything in the wellness field, like you do. What's some advice you would give?
So, what's some advice I would give for someone who's preparing on this entrepreneurship journey, potentially even a 9 to 5? Um, I think one, it takes self exploration, introspection is big, whether it's journaling, um, because this is a big step. Like, I don't want to sugarcoat it and say, like, oh, let's just see how it's going to go. So, like, you really want to know what's resonating with your spirit. At least that's the pathway that I took. I know there are some folks who are like really great in business and they can kind of make anything work. That's not me. So, like, the first idea is to just think about something that resonates with your spirit. And one way of doing that is through the introspection, the journaling, and seeing what themes, what motifs keep coming out in your writing, and then figure out a way, even if it hasn't been done, figure out a way to manifest that and bring that to life, right? Have that plan. And then the honestly, it may seem weird. I'm gonna just say, like, start to find folks that are around that space that you want to get into, right? So, it like with me, it was like, okay, let me find a Pilates school. In there, I got two amazing mentors from there. I didn't utilize them to my to the fullest, and so I'm gonna say, once you're in that space, you collaborate, you add value, and you really take in the scenery of what's happening, and potentially get a mentor or at least kind of learn the ropes of what's happening around the sector that you want to be in. So right now we're in strategy mode. So we have the idea, we're in strategy mode, kind of doing recon with the field, and after that, like, just whatever it is, take one step doing it, whether if you want to teach an outdoor yoga class or partner up with a studio to sub or even be a TA, say, hey, like, this is a full class, I can come and help you do some cueing and things like that, walk around while you're actually teaching. That's a big help. Wink, wink, hint, hint, nudge, nudge. um, so that could be an option. And then, yeah, just bet on yourself. Always bet on yourself. That to me, that used to sound so cliche, but bet on yourself. So, just take the first step. And I just got to throw it out there.
Mm-hmm.
There are and specifically in San Diego, there are so many resources out here. When it comes to even strategizing or business planning, you have like the SBDC, you have the Jacob Center for Innovation, we have Village Up. So there's so many resources that have been so helpful, even if it's just to have a sounding board for some things, right? I guess the motif in this conversation that we're having is do something in community, like, just be within a community that you can serve and that serves you, because that energetic exchange is really important and it's really helpful on this journey.
Yeah, and shout out to all those people, Village Up, Jacob Center, who else did you mention? SBDC.
Ooh,
Those are all our Rise Urban Nation partners, and we collaborate on so many different things to just bring those resources to community. And then there's still more work to be done to make sure those resources get out to everybody. But all great resources that anybody can go on and use and find, and then meet up with other entrepreneurs to help you along the way in your journey as well, so that you can have that collective group that supports each other and helps each other grow to the next level.
amen.
So thank you for that plug and shout out. uh, when you look at your industry, what do you think the future has in store for your industry? I know you gave us a breakdown earlier about how big it is in San Diego, but what does the future look like, especially for people like us? What does it look like for people like us specifically?
Um, on that note, I just got to say, yesterday I just found out that there is another Black female Pilates instructor in San Diego who I had connected with before. So I was like, let's connect right now, girl. We exchange information ASAP, right? So I think from my experience, this has been a very welcoming, encouraging community, like specifically with Black instructors in San Diego. And it's been beautiful to see. It's not looking at, oh, that person has a studio over there, that's competition, right? It's like, no, like, oh, when are you going to come in and take a session? Like, so I see a lot of that camaraderie that's happening, and it's beautiful. And I think as long as that's maintained, the possibilities are endless. So I'm putting it out there in the public space that by the end of 2023, I want to do like a Black Pilates crawl, right? Where over a certain amount of time we travel to different like Black owned Pilates organizations,
Okay.
and like as a group we kind of go in, we do a mat class here or a reformer class here. So that's what I want to do in 2023.
Okay.
I'm putting
I
it out
like
there.
that. I like that.
But on that note, too, wellness and overall well-being, that's physical, emotional, and mental, is very, very important, in particular with the Black community, because there's a lot of intergenerational trauma that hasn't been addressed, and a lot of people are starting to address now, and it's great. So I think that leads even more room in the market for growth of creating spaces that are culturally competent for folks to come in. And I like to start with the physical. Your somatic journey is completely tied with your spiritual and your emotional journey. So like, even though we'll come in and I'm saying, let's do some arm work, let's do some pelvic curls, we hold a lot of emotion, sometimes past traumas in our pelvis, right? A lot of times our arm strength or weakness can have to do with like, are we grieving? Is there something? Did we break our heart? Is our heart open? Is it full? Is that a point where it can receive love? You find that like you can start to develop a lot of physical upper body strength if you're at a place where like you're ready to receive a lot of love. And so like, how do we get there? So your somatic journey is absolutely tied to your emotional and spiritual journey, and creating these spaces where we all feel safe. So like, I think Black instructors, Black institutions and places for us to come in are really important, because I have a lot of really great colleagues of multiple different races and ethnicity. But sometimes the cueing, like, Black women got butts, like, it's like, so you'll hear tuck, tuck, tuck a lot. You can't really tuck, that pulls you out of your neutral pelvis. So you have to be able to understand, like, just breaking it down, like physical anatomy of a pelvis. And so if we have, like really developed glute muscles, it's going to be hard for us to like kind of go into like quote unquote what we're looking for to be a neutral position. So even understanding anatomy and from a certain perspective is really, really, really helpful. And it's not, and so just so you know, like, and this is where I kind of was leading before and saying that there's so much, like specifically with Movement Matters, I personally haven't come across a Spanish speaking Pilates instructor here in San Diego. I think I'm like, that's insane. Like that's insane. So I can't say that I want to have a culturally competent learning institution, and I don't even have someone that represents the demographics of the people who live literally right across the street from where the studio is. So things like that, I think just making sure that there are a lot more, that this industry, particularly in San Diego, looks like America, right? Or at least looks like San Diego, where it's just not all homogenized in one thing. I really want it to look like the United States, and specifically look at like we in San Diego. And that's what's in the store for Movement Matters. So the whole kind of wellness world in particular, we are moving more towards hybrid models. So you will be seeing a lot of, you'll have opportunities to work online, like Netflix just had the deal with Nike, which is really dope. There's a gentleman from San Diego. He's a Black gentleman who's on that program. His name is Jareel, I believe. So if you're watching this, you can go on Netflix, do the Nike yoga, and you'll see someone from San Diego. So that's
Nice.
really amazing.
Love it. Love it.
So, just finding ways of having some type of hybrid model where we can do in person and have it being online and super accessible. I think COVID kind of broke the mold for that and said, like, this is now an expectation. And that's in general where the space is going. And I'm trying to think. Yeah, technology fits in a whole lot there. But in my world too, but I definitely, every step that I take, I don't know what it's going to be right now, but every step that I'm taking for Movement Matters is solely to help, folks really take a step closer, and making sure their internal dialogue is kind to themselves so that they can be kinder to their others, and really help have their journey, their physical journey, help with their emotional journey as well through this life.
Okay, I like that. I'm over here thinking about the statement that you made about there's not one Hispanic yoga instructor, and wow, that's like,
oh, I
that's
said
just telling
Pilates.
right there.
I did
Pilates. Oh, sorry,
Pilates. So I have met quite a few amazing yoga instructors that are either Mexican or of Latin descent, and they are amazing. So in different sectors, we're on different levels. So in yoga, absolutely. In Pilates, no, I haven't met one, and that's just a legitimate.
Not one single Hispanic Pilates instructor. So in the spirit of the last movie that came out from Black Panthers, let's help our brown brothers and sisters. Let's unite so that we can get more of us on the map in these Pilates studios, in these yoga studios, and make sure there's a representation of all the different cultures in those communities.
Absolutely.
Of people that look like them, to help with movement in those communities. It really makes a difference. So thank you for bringing more awareness and attention to that for us. With that being said, let's end off like this, because I feel like me and you could talk for hours.
But what's next, brother?
Yeah, but I don't do Joe Rogan like podcasts. So, what are you currently working on, and where can the people find you?
Okay, so we'll start with where people can find me. I am on Instagram, Movement Matters Collective on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. You can follow my personal page, which is Latoya McKelvin. And Movement Matters also has a Facebook page, and it's Movement Matters Collective. And currently, the main project is building out the studio, creating that safe, sacred space for folks to come in and really just be completely who they are authentically, and move from a very authentic place, no matter where it is. Because so many times you hear people say, "Oh, I don't want to do yoga because I need to stretch beforehand, or I'm not flexible enough to do yoga, so I'll do it when I get more flexible." Like, no, come authentically where you are right now. I also, one of my favorite things to do is my Pilates in the Park class. So Sundays at 10 a.m., we have Pilates in the Park. It takes place at Memorial Park in Chula Vista. It's right next to the Chula Vista Farmers Market. So you can do Pilates and then go get your produce right afterwards. So it's amazing. And it's every Sunday, except for when it rains. So if you're following me on Instagram, you'll know I try to offer it virtually when it rains so that we can still get that movement in and be very consistent in that matter. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, but there are some other great things in Surf and Movement Matters coming up, and I can't wait to share. But we're gonna stay mum on that for right now.
More to come, ladies and gentlemen.
More
More
to
to
come.
come. So, Latoya, thank you so much for stopping by, sharing your stories, sharing your journey with us, sharing helpful tips and advice. Y'all make sure y'all check out, and don't worry, if you didn't get all of that, or you're driving, you didn't get a chance to write it down, I'll put it in the show notes, and we'll have links to how to connect with Latoya. Any last words of wisdom for the people, Latoya, before we sign out today?
My last words of wisdom is to just breathe. So, like, take a moment, inhale fully and deeply through your nose, filling your belly, your ribs, and your chest with good air, and then exhale it all out nice and slow. Releasing anything that doesn't serve you in this moment. We do that a few times a day. I promise you, you'll thank yourself. You personally need those few moments of kindness to yourself by just breathing.
Mm, yeah, just breathe. Breath is important to life
Ooh, yes.
and in life. So, thank you guys for all tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next time.